And good afternoon, everyone. I hope we're all good. And as I start, as Amy has indicated, we'll be sharing some insights into the short communication that we've put together and looking at advancing inclusive and effective agri-food system research for development. And I'm Nompumelelo Obokoh. And indeed, to start off, just to give a little bit of an overview, especially since our ISDC chair has indicated that this work really started in 2021, where we focused on inclusive innovation and what that will mean to CGIAR. And indeed, we started with a policy brief on incubating innovation, a one CGIAR culture and mindset. This really was for the System Council also and the CG to look at its core responsibility to improve innovation systems, and thus that in literature review then kicked off following that, which was quite extensive, looking at transformation through inclusive innovation. And then, of course, just as a reminder, I think some of you may have participated in some of our science forums. In 2022, we had one in Brisbane where we talked about building inclusive innovation in international development. And then following that, in 2023, we had one in Rabat, Morocco. And again, we tackled innovation for impact, but specifically focusing on growing gender equality, youth, and social inclusion. So Amy has provided quite an extensive overview of the process that led to the development as well as of the agri-system, the publication itself. So let me then dive into the first paper that we are going to look at in a few minutes. But before I do that, I want to acknowledge the contribution of various authors that were part and parcel of this great work that culminated in the short communication. And to start with, Holger Menk, as we have heard earlier on, he gave an introduction into the forum, but he's an expert in the field of global food sustainability. And again, we have Magali Garcia, a member of the ISDC as well, from the field of bioclimatology, climate change, and ecosystem management. And Fetien Abere, our former member, she has a strong experience in plant breeding and extension systems. And we collaborated with Christine Negra as a consultant on the project, and she's a researcher in climate and agriculture, but most importantly, she has worked extensively with many international organizations. And finally, with us here today, Ms. Alison Smith, and she is the director of the CGIAR, Independent Advisory and Evaluation Services, that host our council secretariat and our corresponding author as well. So thank you all for your contributions and for ensuring that we have this short communication that we're going to look at today. So in terms of the literature review that we undertook as we're developing the work, it entailed structured compilation, objective review, and synthesis of recent literature relevant to inclusive innovation, with emphasis on nutrition, poverty, gender, climate, and environment. And we looked at various sources as we're developing the paper, the literature review that we have compiled as ISDC, documentation of existing and ongoing work within CGIAR, and of course, publications and other sources which we identified through expert consultations. And we also included internet searches for articles and peer-reviewed papers, as well as popular journals, as well as recent publications, all really looking at research for development, but also what is happening in various institutions, as well as within CGIAR and partner organizations. So furthermore, we then engage in consultations with experts in the field where they provided insights regarding the range of inclusive innovation concepts and practices among discrete set of CGIAR researchers and partners. And all of these informed as part of the symposium that we had at TropEg conference, then we're able then to come with the literature review for the work. So just to start off, what is inclusive innovation? I think this is a very key question, understanding that this topic has been widely looked at, and there are quite a number of definitions. But for us, we zoomed into the work by Hicks and others published in 2013, where he refers to inclusive innovation in agriculture, because we wanted to be specific and zoom into the agricultural field. And it says it is the process of creating and putting into use agricultural practices new to a particular environment as the means by which new goods and services are developed for and or by those who have been excluded from the development mainstream, particularly the billions living on lowest incomes. So with that in mind, we'll be able then to use that as we move on as the basis of understanding inclusive innovation for agricultural research and development. So there's some reflections that we got from the literature review as well, including that inclusive innovation really is not a product, but a contextualized process that engages local actors, and in this case, farmers, small-scale entrepreneurs, as drivers of diverse innovation outcomes to start with. And again, co-innovation is insufficient without explicit and active inclusion of marginalized and or affected groups and research methodologies in the processes and partnerships, emphasizing the importance of transdisciplinary approaches. And some of the reflection also included the fact that inclusion should be viewed through an intersectional lens, considering factors such as gender, age, ethnicity, neurodiversity, as well as disability. So all of this also, we are looking at clear rationales. For example, more robust impact potential are needed to persuade investors, leaders in the sector, and researchers as well to adopt new mindsets and practices which are necessary for institutional transition that meet stakeholders' expectation for inclusive innovation systems. So furthermore, we are advancing 4 key strategies on inclusive innovation. These are insights that we gathered from the various research that we started with in 2021. And the first is strategies for navigating trade-offs, inclusive and effective partnership strategies, diversified measurements and learning strategies, as well as institutional change strategies in international agricultural research centers or councils. So having said that, with the trade-offs here, we're looking at how do you then develop tools that balances competing priorities in research or in the whole innovation value chain in order to achieve equitable outcomes. And then secondly, when you're looking at the partnerships, the diversity that you need to work with throughout the research and the development space, we need to cultivate these partnerships. They must be equitable and tailored to local contexts. And again, looking at diversified measurement and learning strategies, here we are looking at using innovation evaluation systems that are inclusive as well to track progress and drive learning. And lastly is the institutional change, which I'm going to now zoom into, because for the focus of our presentation, we then wanted to look at institutional change and how it promotes and incentivizes flexibility amongst researchers to encourage authentic participatory interaction with local agri-food systems actors and institutions. And secondly, how therefore it can foster inclusive models for research projects and teams that embraces transdisciplinary approaches, ensuring diverse perspectives and expertise. They have to be all integrated. And for us, lastly, the importance of comparative advantage, articulating how that comparative advantage can depend upon inclusive innovation modes of working. So having said that, the paper really highlights 4 key concepts. The first being context-specific actions are needed in order to address the gaps in progress towards global sustainability and equity goals. That's the first. The second is that inclusive agri-food system innovation models, they generate and also they promote context-specific actions, and the strategies that exist to advance agri-food system innovation models in agricultural research for development, as I took you through those. So they are there, they are in the literature, and they're also being practiced. So now, when we look at all of that overall, we are saying that institutional change strategies are the cornerstone for inclusive and effective agricultural research for development. So as I close, I would like to request that you also look at our full paper, which you can find through this link, or taking a photo from this, so that we can then engage further as we build an inclusive and also advance, an effective agri-food system for research and development. And I'd like to thank you so much for your attention, and we look forward to engaging further. Thank you.